The Summoning. The crystalline spires of Elysium City gleamed in the light of 3 setting suns, but first scholar Thelen took no joy in the sight. From the observatory atop the highest tower, he watched the distant flashes in the night sky. Krell warships decimating the last of their orbital defenses. Within days, perhaps hours, the Krell Dominion would begin their ground assault, and the peaceful Elysian civilization would join countless others in extinction. "The Council awaits, First Scholar," said Mira, his most trusted researcher. Her translucent blue skin pulsed with anxiety, visible emotions being an evolutionary trait of their telepathic species. Thelen's 4-fingered hand clutched an ancient data crystal. "Is it authentic?" "You're certain?" "The artifact predates our recorded history. The language took weeks to decipher, but yes, the texts speak of a species called humans, warriors of legendary skill who once drove the Krell from this sector of the galaxy." "And this device?" Thelen asked, gesturing to the schematics hovering in the holographic display. "It can truly reach across dimensions. According to the ancient records, the humans disappeared millennia ago, but this summoning array was designed to pierce the barriers between realities." "However, First Scholar," Mira's skin darkened with concern, "the texts also warn that humans are unpredictable, violent creatures, dangerous beyond measure." Thelen stared at the approaching Krell ships. "What choice do we have? The Krell leave no survivors." The Grand Council chamber fell silent as Thelen presented the ancient texts. The 12 elder Elysians, their skin patterns showing complex patterns of fear and skepticism, listened intently. "This is heresy," Elder Voss finally said. "Our entire civilization is built on pacifism and harmony. To summon a creature of violence. Will you watch our children die rather than compromise our principles?" Thelen countered. "The texts describe humans as fierce, yes, but also protective of those weaker than themselves. They defeated the Krell once before." "If they even exist," another elder muttered. Thelen activated the holographic display. "This is the Krell advance from just this morning. At current trajectory, they'd breach our atmospheric shields in 26 hours. Every world that has stood against them has fallen. Every single one." In the end, desperation won over tradition. As night fell, Thelen and a team of Elysian engineers activated the ancient device in the heart of the city. The quantum resonance chamber, built according to the ancient schematics, hummed with energy as they calibrated it to the specific dimensional frequency described in the texts. "There's no guarantee what kind of human will answer the call," Mira warned. "The device seeks the closest dimensional match, but we could get anyone." Thelen nodded grimly. "Any human is better than none." The chamber erupted in blinding light. Reality itself seemed to tear as space folded inward, creating a swirling vortex of energy. The Elysian scientists retreated in fear as the portal stabilized and a figure stumbled through. Sarah Chen had been in the middle of a routine maintenance check on her combat exoskeleton when reality split open. One moment she was in the engineering bay of Lunar Base Alpha. The next she was sprawled on an alien floor, surrounded by tall, blue-skinned beings with 4 arms and enormous eyes. Her military training kicked in immediately. She rolled to her feet, back against the wall, hand reaching for a sidearm that wasn't there. "What the hell is this?" she demanded, eyes darting around the chamber. "Who are you?" The aliens stared in what appeared to be shock. One stepped forward cautiously, hands raised in what seemed a universal gesture of peace. "We are Elysians," the creature said in surprisingly good English. "I am First Scholar Thelen. We have brought you here because our world faces extinction." Sarah's mind raced. This had to be some kind of simulation, a test from command. But everything felt too real. The air carried unfamiliar scents, and gravity was slightly lighter than Earth normal. "How are you speaking English?" she asked suspiciously. "The summoning device translates. Please, we have little time. The Krell Dominion approaches our world. According to our ancient texts, your kind once fought them off." The Krell. Sarah shook her head. Never heard of them. Thalen's skin pulsed with what might have been disappointment. Perhaps in your reality, they go by another name. They are conquerors, a hive mind species that consumes all in their path. Before Sarah could respond, alarms blared throughout the chamber. A younger Elysian rushed in, skin flashing patterns of panic. First Scholar. Krell scouts have breached the outer perimeter. They're already in the city. Thalen turned to Sarah, desperation evident in his large eyes. Human, we are a peaceful species. We cannot fight. Please. The decision made itself. Whatever bizarre situation she'd found herself in, these beings needed help. Where are they coming from? And I need a weapon. The Elysians looked at each other in confusion. We don't have weapons, Mira admitted. Sarah sighed. Then get me tools. Heavy ones. Minutes later, Sarah crouched behind a crystal column in the main plaza, clutching a maintenance wrench that would serve as a makeshift club. Through the shadows, she saw them, insectoid creatures moving with military precision, their chitinous exoskeletons gleaming under Elysium's moons. 6 Krell scouts, each nearly 7 feet tall, armed with energy weapons and scanning the area methodically. Sarah had survived 3 tours in the resource wars back on Earth. She knew when she was outmatched, but she also knew how to use surprise to her advantage. The Krell moved like a disciplined unit, which meant they likely thought as one, a weakness she could exploit. She waited until they split into pairs, then made her move. Using the lighter gravity to her advantage, Sarah launched herself at the nearest Krell, bringing the heavy wrench down on what she hoped was a vulnerable joint in its exoskeleton. The satisfying crack confirmed her guess, and the creature collapsed with a high-pitched shriek. Its partner turned, weapon rising, but Sarah was already moving, faster than the Krell expected a non-insectoid species to move. She ducked under its aim, drove her shoulder into its thorax, and used its own momentum to flip it over. Another strike to the head silenced it. The commotion alerted the other scouts. Energy bolts scorched the crystal walls around her as Sarah dove for cover. She grabbed the fallen Krell's weapon, took a split second to understand its firing mechanism, and returned fire. The Elysians, watching from hiding, stared in shock as the human moved with impossible speed and precision. Within minutes, all 6 Krell scouts lay immobilized or dead. Sarah stood in the center of the plaza, breathing hard but uninjured. The Krell weapon hummed in her hands as she scanned for any remaining threats. Thalen approached cautiously, skin pulsing with a mixture of awe and horror. You killed them. 3 dead, 3 incapacitated. Sarah replied clinically. These were just scouts. There will be more. She examined the weapon she'd acquired. This is actually pretty impressive tech. Simple design, efficient power distribution. You adapted to alien technology in seconds, Mira said, stepping forward, and fought 6 armed warriors with just a tool. Sarah shrugged. Combat engineer. Figuring out how things work is my job. She looked up at the night sky, where more Krell ships were visible. Now you better tell me everything you know about these Krell, because we don't have much time before they realize their scouts aren't reporting back. As they hurried back to the safety of the central tower, Sarah felt the eyes of hundreds of Elysians watching her from windows and doorways, some fearful, others hopeful. She didn't know how she'd gotten here, or if she'd ever get home. But one thing was clear. These people needed help, and for whatever reason, they'd called on her to provide it. Your ancient texts, she asked as they entered the council chamber. What exactly do they say about humans? Thalen's skin rippled with uncertainty before he answered. That you are the only species the Krell ever retreated from. That one human warrior is worth a battalion of any other species. And, Sarah prompted. That the Krell fear you above all other beings in the galaxy. Sarah smiled grimly. Then let's make sure we give them something to be afraid of. The reckoning. Dawn broke over Elysium City as Sarah stood before the hastily assembled group of Elysians. None had ever held a weapon before today, but all had volunteered after witnessing her defeat of the Krell scouts. "I can't turn you into warriors overnight," she told them bluntly. "But I can teach you to defend yourselves." Over 3 intense days, Sarah worked tirelessly. While the Krell massed their forces in orbit, seemingly confused by the loss of their advance team, she helped the Elysians repurpose their technology for defense. Their energy distribution systems, designed for city infrastructure, became makeshift shield generators. Scientific instruments were modified into sensors to track Krell movements. "Your people have incredible technology," Sarah told Thelen as they worked. "You've just never thought to use it defensively. Violence is foreign to us," he explained, watching her reconfigure a gravitational research device into a weapon. "Our telepathic bond causes us to feel each other's pain. Causing harm is unthinkable." Sarah paused. "Then why summon me? You knew what humans were capable of." "Desperation," Thelen admitted. "And hope." The text spoke of human violence, yes, but also of something else. Your adaptability, your willingness to protect others even at cost to yourselves. Qualities we thought might save us. On the 4th day, the Krell commander finally made contact. A massive holographic projection appeared over the city center. An enormous Krell, its exoskeleton adorned with trophies from conquered worlds. "Elysians," the creature's voice boomed. "Your defiance is futile. Surrender your world and your knowledge, and we will make your extinction painless." Sarah stepped forward before Thelen could respond. "They're not alone anymore." The commander's compound eyes seemed to focus on her, mandibles clicking in what might have been surprise. "A human. Impossible. Your kind was eradicated cycles ago." "Clearly not," Sarah replied coolly. "Leave this world in peace, or face the consequences." "One human changes nothing," the commander hissed. "We will descend upon this world in 12 hours. Prepare for annihilation." The projection vanished. "He seemed to recognize what you are," Mira observed. "Yet you said your people never encountered the Krell." Sarah nodded thoughtfully. "Something's not adding up." She turned to Thelen. "Show me those ancient texts again. I need to see exactly what they say about humans and Krell." In the archives, Sarah studied the translated documents carefully. "These aren't just historical records," she finally said. "These are warnings. From my people to yours." Thalen's skin pulsed with surprise. "What do you mean?" "The dimensional coordinates in your summoning device. They're too precise to be coincidental. Someone from my world, or a world very much like it, left these instructions deliberately. They knew the Krell would eventually return, and they wanted to make sure you could call for help." That night, as the Krell fleet positioned for invasion, Sarah outlined her plan to the council. It was audacious, possibly suicidal, but it was their only chance. "I need to get aboard their command ship," she explained. "Impossible," Elder Vos protested. "Their vessels are impenetrable." Sarah smiled. "No defense is perfect. The scout ship we captured uses quantum entanglement for communication. With the right modifications, I can use it to transport directly to their command center." "Even if you succeed," Thelen argued, "you would face an entire ship of Krell warriors alone." "Sometimes one is enough," Sarah replied, checking the captured weapons she had modified, "especially when that one is what they fear most." Hours later, Sarah stood in the quantum chamber, now reconfigured as a makeshift transport platform. She wore a cobbled-together exosuit fashioned from Elysian technology, enhanced with components from her combat engineer gear. "The transport window will be brief," Mira explained. "We've identified what appears to be their command center from the scout ship's navigational data, but we can't guarantee precision." Sarah nodded. "I'll make it work." She hesitated, then added, "If I don't make it back, implement the defensive measures we practiced. You're stronger than you think." With a flash of energy, Sarah vanished from the chamber. Reality twisted around her for a sickening moment before she materialized in a darkened corridor aboard the Krell flagship. Immediately, she activated the optical camouflage function of her modified suit, Not perfect invisibility, but enough to confuse sensors. The ship was massive, a living hive of activity. Thousands of Krell moved through its organic-looking passages with single-minded purpose. Using the scanner she'd fashioned from Elysian tech, Sarah made her way toward the central chamber, avoiding patrols when possible, silently neutralizing them when necessary. What she found in the command center changed everything. The Krell commander stood before a massive display showing Elysium below, but behind him, preserved in a stasis field, hung a familiar sight. An Earth military uniform, at least a century old judging by the design. They weren't lying. Sarah whispered to herself. Humans did fight the Krell before. She deactivated her camouflage, stepping into the open. Instantly, alarm klaxons blared throughout the ship. The commander whirled around, mandibles clicking in shock. Human, it hissed. How did you breach our defenses? The same way my ancestors did, Sarah replied, keeping her weapon trained on the commander. With ingenuity you can't comprehend. Now, we're going to talk. There is nothing to discuss. Your kind was meant to be extinct. Yet here I stand. Sarah gestured toward the preserved uniform. That's Earth military. How did you get it? The commander's compound eyes gleamed. Spoils of conquest. Your homeworld fought bravely before it fell. Sarah felt cold fury rise within her. You're lying. Earth still stands. Perhaps in your reality, the commander clicked. The multiverse is vast. In this one, we exterminated humanity centuries ago, all except the dangerous knowledge they left behind. Knowledge that led the Elysians to summon you. Understanding dawned on Sarah. The dimensional summoning hadn't just crossed space, it had crossed realities. She came from an Earth where the Krell had never attacked. The Elysians had pulled her from a different timeline altogether. Then the records were left by humans from this reality, she said, as insurance against your return. A futile gesture. One human cannot save the Elysians. Sarah smiled grimly. Want to bet? She activated the final sequence on her modified scanner. Throughout the Krell ship, the quantum signals began broadcasting on a frequency she had discovered in the ancient texts, a shutdown code embedded in the Krell's hive consciousness by human scientists long ago. The effect was immediate. All around her, Krell warriors faltered, their movements becoming uncoordinated as the signal disrupted their hive-mind connection. The commander shrieked in rage, lunging toward her with surprising speed. Sarah sidestepped, using his momentum against him just as she had with the scouts. The commander was stronger, but Sarah was fighting for more than herself now. She was fighting for a human legacy in this reality, and for the peaceful Elysians who had placed their trust in her. The battle was brutal but brief. As the commander lay defeated at her feet, Sarah accessed the ship's communication system. Attention Krell Dominion, she broadcast to the entire fleet. Your commander has fallen. Your hive mind is compromised. This world is under human protection. Withdraw immediately or face extinction. She waited, weapon ready, as the Krell forces processed this new reality. Minutes later, engines ignited across the fleet as ship after ship broke orbit, retreating to the edges of the system. When Sarah returned to Elysium City, transported back by the same quantum technology that had brought her aboard the Krell ship, she was greeted as a savior. The Elysians gathered in the central plaza, their skin pulsing with joy and relief. The Krell have withdrawn beyond the outer planets, Felon announced. They sent a formal declaration of retreat. This sector is now recognized as human territory. He turned to Sarah. Though you are the only human here. For now, Sarah replied. She held up the scanner, now modified with data from the Krell ship. Their databases contained the dimensional coordinates of multiple human realities, including my own. With your permission, I can adapt your summoning device to establish permanent contact. Mira's skin rippled with excitement. An alliance between our peoples. More than that, Sarah said. A second chance. In my reality, humans never met the Krell, never met your people. But now we can build something new, a bridge between worlds. As the three sons of Elysium set on a world now free from threat, Sarah looked up at the stars, thinking of home, but also of new possibilities. The Elysians had summoned her out of desperate fear, seeking the one creature their enemies dreaded most. What they had found instead was something more powerful than fear. They had found hope. And in Sarah Chen, combat engineer turned interdimensional diplomat, they had found the first of many humans who would help rebuild what war had nearly destroyed. Thelen joined her at the observatory, his skin now calm and peaceful. The ancient texts were right about humans, he said quietly, but not in the way we first thought. How so? Sarah asked. They called you the most dangerous species in the galaxy. We assumed this meant violence and destruction. He gestured toward the city below, where Elysians and the first human worked together to create new defenses and new connections. Now we understand the truth. You are dangerous because you make the impossible possible. You change everything you touch. Sarah smiled. That's what humans do best.